Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
This person is no other than Sheng Fenghua Love Rival, Bai Feifei. Today, Bai Feifei came to the city to do some business. She especially came to see her teacher, Professor Ouyang, but she didn't want to hear about Sheng Fenghua here. What she didn't expect was that the head of Yang's family, the director of Yang's hospital, actually praised Sheng Fenghua so much that he almost praised her to the sky. She remembered that she had applied for a job at the Yang family hospital, but in the end, she had not been accepted. She had even gone to the army to become a military doctor, but Sheng Fenghua did not even have a qualification certificate. President Yang actually wanted to hire her to be a doctor. By Feifei's heart was filled with jealousy. Damn it, she was just a wretched girl from the countryside. What right did she have to steal the man that she had taken a fancy to? And now she could easily get the job that she had once wanted. Bai Feifei was filled with hatred and jealousy. She did not have the intention to look for Professor Ouyang anymore. She turned around and was ready to leave. However, when she turned around, she saw Sheng Fenghua coming upstairs with Jun Yinshin. When love rivals meet, their eyes were especially red. Moreover, Bai Feifei also heard President Yang praising Sheng Fenghua. Therefore, Bai Feifei strode forward and blocked in front of Sheng Fenghua. She said mockingly, "Sheng Fenghua, I didn't know that you were so capable. Not only did you hook up with a handsome guy, you even took down a person like President Yang." Sheng Fenghua saw Bai Feifei and was about to say bad luck. How come she could meet Bai Feifei everywhere when she heard Bai Feifei's call? Her face could not help but turn ugly. She looked at Bai Feifei coldly and said, "Dr. Bai, did you take the wrong medicine?" "Sheng Fenghua, who did you say took the wrong medicine?" Bai Feifei gritted her teeth and glared at Sheng Fenghua. Now that she was no longer in the military compound, there was no need for her to pretend. Who else could it be? If you didn't take the wrong medicine, why did you say such crazy things so early in the morning? Sheng Fenghua. Bai Feifei squeezed out a few words from between her teeth and then turned to look at Jun Yinshin. She said, "This handsome guy, I advise you not to be fooled by her. She is just a stinky girl from the countryside, a country bumpkin. Except for her pretty face, she doesn't know anything else. She's still making medicine. Stop laughing so much. She's just a poor girl from the countryside. She probably doesn't even know how to write. And she wants to get a doctor's certificate? Dream on." Just as Bai Feifei was slandering Sheng Fenghua, some people came to the teaching building. They were all medical students. They all knew Bai Feifei. When they saw her humiliating Sheng Fenghua, they surrounded her and asked, "Senior Sister Bai, who is she? Why did you say that she's from the countryside?" "Yes, Senior Sister Bai. Yesterday, the professor said that there's a very powerful girl coming to get a doctor's certificate. It can't be her, right?" "Senior Sister Bai, you just said that she came from the countryside and couldn't even recognize words. Could it be true?" "That's right, Senior Sister Bai. Such a person can also take the medical certificate examination. Then we can all take the examination." "That's right. I don't know what the professor was thinking. Why did he agree?" Bai Feifei heard everyone's words and sneered. She said, "How could the professor not agree? She has climbed up a high branch. President Yang personally recommended her." "What? President Yang is the president of a Yang family's private hospital? Who else could it be? Really? Why would President Yang fall for her? Who knows? Otherwise, why would I say that she's capable?" Jun Yinshin stood at the side and could not stand it any longer. He was about to speak up for Sheng Fenghua when she stopped him. "Fenghua, it's clearly not like this. Are you going to let them talk about you like this?" Jun Yinshin looked at Sheng Fenghua with a puzzled face. Once these words were spread out, it would have a great impact on Sheng Fenghua's reputation. Sheng Fenghua glanced at Jun Yinshin indifferently and said, "I like to slap people's faces. Rather than wasting my breath arguing with them, I'd rather use it directly. I want to speak with facts. It will be more convincing to the public." "What do you want to do?" Jun Yinshin heard Sheng Fenghua's words and thought it made sense. Just like in a hospital, no matter how many good words Grandfather Jun said for Sheng Fenghua, no amount of praise could be compared to the fact that she herself proved it. Watch carefully. Sheng Fenghua winked at Jun Yinchen, then looked up at Bai Feifei and said with a smile, Dr. Bai, I am indeed from the countryside. But so what? Who says that those who come from the countryside don't know anything? Others may, but you certainly don't. Bai Feifei looked at Sheng Fenghua with disdain. Previously, because Sheng Fenghua had stolen the man she liked, she had deliberately asked people to investigate Sheng Fenghua and know about her family situation. She also knew that because she was the eldest daughter's eldest sister, she had never read a book and was illiterate. It was precisely because of this that she was so jealous of her and hated her. In Bai Feifei's opinion, Sheng Fenghua was really useless. She had no family background, no culture, and no moral character. She was not worthy of Si Zhanbei at all. Is that so? Sheng Fenghua laughed, and a cunning look flashed in her eyes. She said, since Dr. Bai is so confident, should we make a bet? What bet? Bai Feifei looked at Sheng Fenghua with contempt, not taking her seriously at all. Let's bet on the qualification exam this time. If I do better than you, please take a detour when you see me in the future. How about it? Bet on the qualification exam. Bai Feifei frowned slightly. She had passed the medical qualification exam a long time ago. If she took the exam again now, she wouldn't be prepared at all, and she didn't know how the exam would turn out. What? Dr. Bai doesn't dare? Sheng Fenghua looked at Bai Feifei with a provocative look, and a sneer was on the corner of her mouth. Sheng Fenghua provoked Bai Feifei, but before Bai Feifei could say anything, her junior brothers and sisters couldn't take it anymore. They said, Senior sister, compete with her. Yes, senior sister. You are the pride of our medical school. Why are you afraid of a country bumpkin like her? Just compete with her. Yes, senior sister. Why are you afraid of her? Compete. How about it, Dr. Bai? Your junior brothers and sisters believe in you very much. You won't let them down, right? Besides, I'm a country bumpkin who can't even read big words. What are you afraid of? Sheng Fenghua couldn't help but provoke Bai Feifei. She must agree to the competition. Otherwise, how could she slap her face later? Bai Feifei was indeed provoked. Of course, she wasn't because of her junior brothers and sisters' words, but because of Sheng Fenghua's identity. Thinking that she was an illiterate from the countryside, she nodded and said, Okay, I'll compete with you. Dr. Bai is indeed a top student of the medical school. You have courage. Sheng Fenghua put a tall hat on Bai Feifei. However, the height of the hat now would make her fall heavily. However, Bai Feifei was not an ordinary person. She glanced at Sheng Fenghua and said, The competition is fine. If I win, you must agree to one condition of mine. What condition? Although Sheng Fenghua had some guesses in her heart, she could not help but ask. Leave Si Zhanbei. Sheng Fenghua's expression changed when she heard this. She said, I'm sorry, but I can't agree to your terms. Why? Bai Feifei glared at Sheng Fenghua. She only had one condition, and Sheng Fenghua didn't agree to it. She was so angry. He's a human, not an object, so I can't use him as a bet, Sheng Fenghua said indifferently. She didn't love Si Zhanbei, but she wouldn't let him go even if she died. Even if she didn't love Si Zhanbei, she wouldn't bet him with someone else. You? Bai Feifei was so angry that she glared at Sheng Fenghua. Change your condition. Sheng Fenghua ignored Bai Feifei's anger and said indifferently. Bai Feifei was helpless. She could only glare at Sheng Fenghua and change her condition. If you lose, you'll never be able to practice medicine. When this condition was mentioned, everyone's expression changed, especially Si Zhanbei, who had just arrived. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. This Bai Feifei was actually so vicious. She said such a condition. She wanted to destroy Sheng Fenghua's life. When he thought of what he had heard when he first arrived, Si Zhanbei was even more disgusted with Bai Feifei. She actually asked Sheng Fenghua to leave him. It was simply wishful thinking. Did she think that if Sheng Fenghua left him, he would like her dream on? He had already decided on Sheng Fenghua a long time ago. He would never let her go for the rest of his life. It seemed that he had to do something. Otherwise, Bai Feifei would really think that he was the regiment commander's daughter and could do whatever he wanted. After hearing Bai Feifei's words, Jun Yinchen's expression did not look good either. Although he did not know how capable Sheng Fenghua was, he believed that her medical skills would not be bad with her superb pharmaceutical skills and the fact that she had saved Grandfather June. But now, Bai Feifei wanted to stop her from practicing medicine. This was going to ruin Sheng Fenghua's future. First, she wanted Sheng Fenghua to give up her husband, and now she wanted to ruin her future. How much did this woman hate Sheng Fenghua? Jun Yinshin could not figure out how much hatred she had to make Bai Feifei say such a condition. As for Bai Feifei's junior brothers and sisters, the way they looked at Bai Feifei could not help but change. Not to mention President Yang and the professors who were standing behind Bai Feifei at some point in time, especially Bai Feifei's mentor, Professor Ouyang. He had always been proud of Bai Feifei, but after hearing her words today, he really wanted to find a hole to hide in. He had never thought that the student he had always thought highly of would be such a person. President Yang looked at Professor Ouyang's devastated look and secretly helped him up. Before this, he didn't accept Bai Feifei because of her character, which he couldn't accept. Even if Bai Feifei pretended to be gentle and kind on the surface, behind her back, she was a completely different person. Speaking of this, it could be considered a coincidence. That day, when Bai Feifei went to their hospital for an interview, she accidentally bumped into an old man on the way. Not only did she not help the old man up, she even threw him a piece of money and left. It was precisely because of this scene that he rejected Bai Feifei to work in their hospital. At that time, he was even complained about by his good friend. However, at that time, President Yang had not told the truth to Professor Ouyang. Instead, he had said that she was not suitable. It was said that doctors were benevolent. In President Yang's opinion, a person who bumped into someone and was not even willing to say sorry did not even have the least bit of respect and conscience, let alone benevolence. When everyone's expression changed, only the person involved, Sheng Fenghua, still had a faint smile on her face. She looked at Bai Feifei and nodded, saying, "Sure." What? Everyone was shocked. They looked at Sheng Fenghua as if she was a fool. She actually agreed to Bai Feifei's conditions. Was there something wrong with Sheng Fenghua's brain? After hearing Sheng Fenghua's words, Jun Yinshin could not help but get anxious. He said, "Fenghua, how could you agree to her conditions so easily?" Looking at Jun Yinshin, who was worried about her, Sheng Fenghua smiled and said mischievously, "What? You don't believe me?" "Fenghua, this is not a question of whether you believe me or not, but—" Jun Yinshin did not say the rest of his words, but the smile on Sheng Fenghua's face became even wider. She said, "As I said before, I never do anything I'm not sure of. Don't worry. As long as I want to do something, there's nothing I can't do. As for making me unable to practice medicine, it depends on whether she has the ability or not." At the same time, those who originally looked down on Sheng Fenghua, namely Bai Feifei's junior brothers and sisters, began to admire her. As medical students, being a doctor was their profession and their goal. If it were any one of them, they wouldn't be able to easily agree to this condition like Sheng Fenghua. As for those professors, they felt that Sheng Fenghua was too conceited, especially Professor Ouyang. His impression of Sheng Fenghua was a bit worse. Not only because Sheng Fenghua had exposed Bai Feifei's true nature and made him lose face in front of his colleagues, but also because he felt that Sheng Fenghua was too arrogant, that she had made a decision too rashly, and that she did not respect medicine. President Yang, on the other hand, looked at Sheng Fenghua with a complicated look. To be honest, he liked Sheng Fenghua very much, but she was so high-profile today. What she did not do well in the exam. He could not help but worry about Sheng Fenghua. The only one who had confidence in Sheng Fenghua was Si Zhanbei. When he heard Sheng Fenghua's words, not only was he not worried, he was actually very happy. He couldn't take his eyes off her for a long time. He felt that his wife was so beautiful. Why did she suit his heart so much? "You are Sheng Fenghua?" Just when everyone was looking at Sheng Fenghua like they were looking at a fool, a professor suddenly asked. Hearing the voice, everyone came back to their senses. When they saw the professor standing behind Bai Feifei, they waved unnaturally. "Hello, professors. Hello, President Yang." The professors and President Yang nodded at everyone. Then they looked at Sheng Fenghua and said, "Little girl, you only talk, not act. Since you have so much confidence in yourself, then come with us." "Okay," Sheng Fenghua replied with a smile. She glanced at Bai Fei and followed behind the professors and President Yang, heading to the classroom that had long been prepared. Bai Fei looked at Sheng Fenghua and the professors who had gone far away. She stomped her feet fiercely and chased after them. The medical students stood where they were. Just as they were hesitating whether they should follow them to join in the fun, they heard President Yang's voice, "Don't just stand there. Come together. Take it as an early exam." Hearing this, the students were delighted and quickly caught up with the group of people in front of them. The exam papers, paper, and pens were already set up in the classroom. President Yang motioned for Sheng Fenghua to go in and said, "Take the exam well. Don't make me lose face here." "Don't worry, President Yang. No matter who you lose face, you won't lose face," Sheng Fenghua said with a smile. She entered the classroom and found a seat to sit down. Bai Fei and the medical students also found a seat and sat down. The exam started on time at 9:30. Several professors and President Yang were supervising the exam at the same time, which made everyone a little nervous. The only person who remained calm and unaffected was Sheng Fenghua. After she sat down, she did not immediately start to fill in the questions. Instead, she carefully read through the questions. Bai Fei sat diagonally behind Sheng Fenghua and watched her every move. When she saw Sheng Fenghua examine the questions, she curled her lips in disdain and said in a low voice, "She's just an illiterate. How can she pretend to be an educated person? It would be weird if you could understand the questions." Bai Fei was not the only one. The students of the medical school all looked at Sheng Fenghua before doing the questions. They wanted to see if this country girl who didn't know anything in Bai Fei's eyes, who couldn't even read, really didn't know anything. However, when they saw that Sheng Fenghua was seriously reading the exam papers, they knew that they had been misled by Bai Fei. That was true. How could a person who could take the medical qualification exam be a useless illiterate? It was not that Sheng Fenghua did not feel the gazes of those people on her, but she did not care. She had always been unwilling to waste her time on some unimportant people. After reading the entire test paper, Sheng Fenghua began to do it. The content of the test paper was not difficult. To her, it was a piece of cake. Therefore, she was very fast. She did not even need to think before filling in the paper. Bai Fei was writing the paper in her hand as she looked at Sheng Fenghua, who was writing nonstop. Her face was a little unsightly, and her heart was filled with doubt. According to her investigation, Sheng Fenghua should be illiterate, but looking at her current appearance, she didn't seem like an illiterate person at all. Could it be that she had been deceived? Thinking of this possibility, Bai Fei's face became even more unsightly. She even forgot to write her own paper. It wasn't until a professor walked past her and coughed lightly that she came back to her senses and started to do it seriously. She still remembered her bet with Sheng Fenghua. In order to prevent Sheng Fenghua from practicing medicine, she had to win. With this thought in mind, Bai Fei no longer dared to be absent-minded and focused on writing. As a medical school graduate, Bai Fei was quite skilled. In addition, she had taken this kind of exam before, so she still had some impression of it, so it was quite easy for her to do it. Time passed bit by bit, and Sheng Fenghua was almost done with her exam paper. After she was done, she checked it again and handed it in. Her actions attracted everyone's attention, and their eyes fell on her again. Bai Fei glanced at Sheng Fenghua with hatred when she saw that she still had a few big questions to answer. She even wondered if she didn't know how to do it, which was why she handed in her paper so quickly. As for the other students, they couldn't help but feel nervous when they saw Sheng Fenghua hand her paper and saw that there was still more than half of what they hadn't done. They could not help but begin to look forward to the results of this exam from the depths of their hearts. At this moment, they could be said to be very conflicted in their hearts. Since they wanted Bai Fei to get good results and fight for the academy, they also wanted to know where Sheng Fenghua's standards were. With conflicted feelings, they watched Sheng Fenghua leave the exam venue. When the invigilator saw that Sheng Fenghua had actually handed in her paper an hour earlier. They were very surprised. They walked to the podium and picked up her paper to look at it, and their expressions immediately changed. As soon as Sheng Fenghua left the exam room, she saw Si Zhanbei talking to President Yang and Jun Yinchen. With a smile on her face, Sheng Fenghua walked up to them. President Yang, Yinchen. Sheng Fenghua first greeted President Yang and Jun Yinchen, then looked at Si Zhanbei and asked with a smile, Zhanbei, why are you here? Didn't I say I would come with you yesterday? It's just that I had some matters to attend to in the morning, so I was delayed. Si Zhanbei explained with a smile, and then asked, Are you done with the exam? Yes. Sheng Fenghua nodded, and then planned to bid farewell to President Yang and Jun Yinchen. Unexpectedly, after President Yang heard her words, his expression changed, and he looked at her with extreme seriousness and asked, Little girl Sheng, you didn't come out before you finished, right? Sheng Fenghua raised her head and looked at President Yang. She smiled and said, President Yang, do you not believe in yourself? Or do you not believe in me? Little girl, this is a qualification exam, and it concerns your future career. You can't play around with it. Moreover, you have made a bet with Bai Feifei, so you must treat it seriously. Looking at President Yang's serious face, Sheng Fenghua's smile became a little chivalrous. She said, President Yang, don't worry. You won't lose face. You little girl, my face is a small matter. Whether you can pass the exam or not is a big matter. Why can't you distinguish the importance? President Yang looked at Sheng Fenghua with a reproachful face. At this moment, she really made him feel love and hate at the same time. Sheng Fenghua looked at President Yang, who looked like he hated himself for failing to meet his expectations. She opened her mouth to say something, but unexpectedly, Si Zhanbei opened his mouth first and said to President Yang, President Yang, I believe in Fenghua. You believe in her? President Yang stared at Si Zhanbei with his eyes wide open, not knowing what to say. He had just found out that Si Zhanbei was Sheng Fenghua's husband. Just now, Si Zhanbei had given him a good impression, but now that he trusted Sheng Fenghua so unconditionally and without reason, he felt that he had misjudged her. During the conversation just now, President Yang felt that Si Zhanbei was a person with principles, but now that he looked at it this way, he had doubts about his previous judgment. President Yang looked worried, but Sheng Fenghua acted as if she didn't see it. At this moment, she only had Si Zhanbei in her eyes. How could he be so good? How could he trust her so unconditionally? Sheng Fenghua's heart was stirred up again, and her eyes were filled with joy. Jun Yinchen, who had been standing at the side, didn't say anything. He looked at the way Si Zhanbei and Sheng Fenghua looked at each other. He looked at the bright light in Sheng Fenghua's eyes, and his gaze darkened. At this moment, a professor hurriedly walked out of the examination room with a test paper in his hand. The moment he saw President Yang, he hurriedly called out, President Yang, President Yang. Hearing someone call out to him, President Yang put away the worry on his face, glanced at Sheng Fenghua, and walked towards the other party. What's wrong? President Yang came in front of the professor and asked indifferently. Look, the professor didn't say anything, but directly handed the test paper to him. This is... President Yang took the test paper with a suspicious look. After taking a look, his expression instantly changed. Then he unfolded the entire test paper and started to read it seriously. By the time he finished reading the test paper, President Yang could no longer hide the shock in his heart. He asked, Whose test paper is this? The professor did not speak. Instead, he pointed at the place where the name was written. President Yang followed the professor's finger and looked over. The words Sheng Fenghua entered his eyes, causing his pupils to shrink. Then, a hint of surprise instantly crawled over his face. As expected of a genius, President Yang praised. He glanced at the professor before turning his head to look at Sheng Fenghua. When the professor came out, Sheng Fenghua had already guessed that the other party was most likely holding her paper. Now that she saw President Yang looking at her, she couldn't help but smile. President Yang smiled back at Sheng Fenghua, then took the paper and went to the office. In the exam room, Bai Feifei hadn't moved her eyes away since Sheng Fenghua handed in the paper and the professors surrounded her. It wasn't until she saw the professors' faces change, and one of them even took the paper away, that she felt relieved. She felt that she would definitely win this time, because she could tell from the professors' expressions that Sheng Fenghua definitely didn't do well in the exam. Otherwise, they wouldn't look like that. When she thought of this, Bai Feifei was extremely pleased with herself. She thought to herself, a country bumpkin from the countryside actually dared to compete with her. He overestimated himself. Most of the other people in the exam venue also thought the same as Bai Feifei. They felt that Sheng Fenghua did not do well in the exam. Only a few people cast a worried gaze at Bai Feifei. Initially, Sheng Fenghua had intended to leave. However, after seeing President Yang take the exam paper to his office, she felt that she should wait a little longer. She wanted to see if her score was about the same as she had expected. "I'm not going back. Should I wait a little longer?" Si Zhanbei asked with a smile, as if he knew what Sheng Fenghua was thinking. "And are you all right?" Sheng Fenghua nodded with a smile. If Si Zhanbei had something to do, she could only go back with him first. She would come back tomorrow or some other time to see the results. "I'm fine. I took a day off today." Si Zhanbei smiled. He would not tell Sheng Fenghua how long he had toyed with political commissar Yang and what price he had paid in order to get the day off. "Didn't your leaders say anything about you?" Sheng Fenghua looked at Si Zhanbei worriedly. She knew that it was very difficult to get a day off in the army. Si Zhanbei had already taken 2 days off a few days ago, and it was the 3rd day today. "It's okay. I still have a lot of holidays that are useless," Si Zhanbei explained. Seeing that Sheng Fenghua believed him and did not continue to ask him, he heaved a sigh of relief. Sometimes, it was quite stressful to marry a smart and sensible wife. Moreover, when President Yang entered the office, Professor Ouyang was preparing for class. When he saw him enter, he raised his eyebrows in surprise. He looked up at him and said, "Why aren't you guarding outside the exam hall?" President Yang didn't say anything. Instead, he directly placed Sheng Fenghua's test paper in front of him and said, "Take a look." Professor Ouyang glanced at President Yang suspiciously. Then, he picked up the test paper and lowered his head to read it carefully. When he saw it, his expression immediately changed. Without waiting to finish reading it, he asked, "Whose test paper is this? It's simply a genius. What do you think?" President Yang looked at Professor Ouyang with a smile on his face. The smile in his eyes couldn't be stopped no matter how hard he tried. Seeing President Yang like this, what was there that Professor Ouyang still didn't understand? However, he still didn't believe it, so he looked directly at the place where the name was written. At a glance, all the flukes were gone. He asked, "There's still more than half an hour left. Did she hand in the paper ahead of time?" Without waiting for President Yang to answer, another professor who had entered the office with him said, "That's right, an hour ahead of time." "It seems that we are going to lose to you." Professor Ouyang sighed. Previously, he had suspected that President Yang was bragging and felt that Sheng Fenghua might be pompous and arrogant. Now, it seemed that she was indeed capable. No wonder she was arrogant because of her talent. President Yang did not say anything, but he did not hide the smug look on his face. However, he said, "It's still too early to say this. The others haven't finished their exams yet. It's not too late to draw a conclusion after everyone's exams have been collected." President Yang is right. We should wait until everyone has finished their exams before drawing a conclusion. There's still half an hour. It should be almost done. At this moment, there were already people in the examination hall who had started to hand in their papers. Because they really couldn't do it, they stood up to hand in their papers. After another 10 minutes, Bai Feifei also handed in her papers. As soon as she came out, she immediately surrounded many of her juniors and juniors. "Senior sister, how did your exams go? Look at what you're asking." Senior sister is a top student in our academy. Her exams definitely won't be bad. That's right. Senior sister will definitely get first place. That's right. Senior sister is so outstanding. I reckon that no one in the entire academy who can compete with her has even been born yet. That's right. Senior sister is not only a top student in the academy, she's also the favorite disciple of Professor Ouyang. who can compete with her. That's right. She's not like some people. They clearly don't have any ability, yet they're still acting like a wolf. They're just afraid that when the results come out later, they won't even have a place to cry. That's right, that's right. They're clearly from the countryside, yet they're still pretending to know everything. They're really shameless. She's the first to hand in her paper. She definitely can't do it. Otherwise, why would she hand in her paper so quickly? The students of the academy, complimented by Fei Fei, while ridiculing Shang Fenghua. As they spoke, they deliberately looked at Shang Fenghua, afraid that she wouldn't know that they were talking about her. However, Shang Fenghua acted as if she didn't hear what everyone was saying. She wasn't a person who liked to waste her breath. She preferred to speak with facts. On the other hand, some of the students couldn't stand it. They softly defended Shang Fenghua and said, "Don't say that. Maybe she finished her paper before us?" Unexpectedly, they were immediately attacked and ridiculed by everyone. "Finish the test before us? Don't joke around." Yeah, if she really finished the test before us, would the professors look like they saw a ghost when they saw her test paper? That's right. I'm telling you, this is the first time I've seen this expression on our professor's face. Maybe she didn't get any of the questions right. It's very possible. Aren't you guys going too far? How are we going too far? Maybe she got all the questions right. The person who had defended Sheng Fenghua couldn't help but speak up for her again. TCH, stop joking, okay? If she can do it right, then I can do it even better. Yeah, if she can do it right, then I can get first place in the exam. Seeing that everyone was almost done speaking, Bai Fei Fei had a smug look on her face. Only then did she step out to be a good person and said, all right. Junior brothers and sisters, please stop talking. Otherwise, others will be so embarrassed that they will be ashamed." Sheng Fenghua looked at Bai Fei Fei and the group of students surrounding her with some amusement. She did not know where they got their confidence from, but they actually thought that Bai Fei Fei did better than her, thinking that she did not get a single question right. Bai Fei Fei saw that Sheng Fenghua did not want to find a hole to hide in because of their words. Instead, she was laughing. She could not help but ask, "Sheng Fenghua, what are you laughing at? Are you laughing at the world's laughable things? What? Are you going to interfere when I laugh? You're not a Pacific Patrol officer. Aren't you being a little too controlling?" Sheng Fenghua asked in return. "You?" Bai Fei Fei was furious. She didn't expect Sheng Fenghua to be so eloquent. Why didn't she realize she was so talkative in the past? Oh, right, in the past, Sheng Fenghua was always on her toes and didn't dare to speak to anyone. That was why everyone looked down on her more and more. But now, this wretched girl seemed to have been enlightened overnight. Not only did she know how to speak, but she was also so eloquent that even she couldn't beat her. Although she was angry, Bai Fei Fei quickly calmed down. She looked at Sheng Fenghua and said mockingly, "Just be happy. When the results are out, let's see how happy you'll be." Okay, then let's wait and see who'll be happy later. Sheng Fenghua threw a provocative look at Bai Fei Fei. She was quite confident about her exam results. After all, in her previous life, she was once called a genius in the medical field. If she couldn't even beat others in an exam, what kind of genius was she? We'll wait and see. Who's afraid of whom? Exactly, we'll wait and see. Who's afraid of whom? Don't cry if you don't do well in the exam later. Oh, right, don't forget the bet between us. If you don't do well, even if you pass the qualification exam, you won't be able to survive in the medical field in the future. Don't worry, I won't forget. However, I'm afraid of some people. They'll renege on their debts if they lose, Sheng Fenghua said with a smile. When she talked about some people, her gaze paused on Bai Fei Fei. How could Bai Fei Fei not know that Sheng Fenghua was talking about her? Therefore, she was very angry and glared at her. However, now is not the time to argue. Everything had to wait until the results were out. Fortunately, after the professors put away the test papers, they quickly returned to the office and began to mark the papers on the spot. Bai Fei Fei and Sheng Fenghua fought outside the classroom for a while and felt that there was no point in arguing. They turned around and chatted with their junior brothers and sisters. She was quite confident in herself. She felt that this time she would definitely do better than Sheng Fenghua and definitely be better than her. However, Her good mood was completely ruined when she saw Si Jianbei running out from an unknown corner. She had never thought that she would run into Si Jianbei here. Moreover, she saw that Si Jianbei was here to look for Sheng Fenghua. Out of habit, Bai Feifei's gaze was glued to Si Jianbei the moment he appeared. She did not even hear her junior brothers and sisters talking to her. Senior sister, senior sister? It was not until a junior sister called her twice and even touched her arm that she reacted. Then, she asked in embarrassment, "What's the matter?" "Senior sister, who's that soldier brother? Is he your boyfriend?" "That's right, senior sister. Is that soldier brother here to look for you?" "It's obvious that he's here to look for senior sister." "Senior sister, am I right?" I really didn't expect that not only is senior sister a top student in our medical school, even her boyfriend is top-notch. Look at his looks. He's even better looking than the national idol on TV. Exactly. If I had such a good-looking boyfriend, my death would be worth it. Senior sister, we're so envious of you. That's right, senior sister. Quickly introduce him to us. He. Bai Feifei looked at the infatuated eyes of her junior sisters, as well as their envious and jealous looks, and opened her mouth to explain. But at this time, Si Jianbei passed them and directly headed towards Sheng Fenghua. What was going on? The junior sisters, who were originally filled with excitement and anticipation, waiting for Bai Feifei to introduce her boyfriend to them, were completely dumbfounded. This top-notch soldier actually bypassed them and walked towards Sheng Fenghua. Could it be that they misunderstood that this man was not Bai Feifei's boyfriend at all, nor was he here to look for her? Thinking of this possibility, everyone's gaze instantly fell on Bai Feifei. Sure enough, they saw her pale face. In an instant, everyone seemed to understand something and looked towards Sheng Fenghua. Seeing that Si Jianbei had returned, Sheng Fenghua's face revealed a faint smile and asked, "Why did you go for so long? Are you in a hurry?" Si Jianbei asked gently. He walked in front of Sheng Fenghua and gently reached out to tuck her hair behind her ear. "No." Sheng Fenghua shook her head and said in a low voice, a little embarrassed, "Don't be like this. Everyone is watching. What are you afraid of? You're my wife. What's wrong with me helping my wife with her hair?" Si Jianbei did not care at all. Now that Jun Yinshan was here, he had to declare his sovereignty at all times to prevent his wife from being snatched by others. "Be careful of your image," Sheng Fenghua warned Si Jianbei in a low voice. Then, she took 2 steps back slightly to increase the distance between the two of them. On the other side, Bai Feifei saw that Si Jianbei was treating Sheng Fenghua so gently. Her eyes turned red, and she turned her head away from them. However, in her heart, she hated Sheng Fenghua even more. She even felt that letting her leave the medical world was a light punishment. She had to leave this city. In that case, if she and Si Jianbei did not meet, it would be her chance. As for the medical students, when they saw this scene, they could not help but become jealous and envious. Especially those girls. They never thought that Si Jianbei was actually Sheng Fenghua's husband. When they thought of the conditions that Bai Feifei had mentioned when they made the bet at the beginning, and her current expression, they quickly understood. They could not help but look at Bai Feifei with a hint of pity in their eyes, while they looked at Sheng Fenghua with even more jealousy. Si Jianbei had always been used to other people's gazes. Sheng Fenghua was not someone who cared about other people's gazes, so the couple chatted intimately while waiting for the results of the exam to come out. Bai Feifei was also able to endure it. Other than losing her composure at the beginning, she continued to chat with her junior brothers and sisters. This made Sheng Fenghua admire her a lot, so it was not unreasonable for Bai Feifei to be popular. Fortunately, although there were more than a dozen people taking the exam, there were quite a number of professors grading the papers. In half an hour, the papers were finished, and everyone gathered together to rank. Professor Ouyang held 2 papers in his hand. One was Bai Feifei's, and the other was Sheng Fenghua's. To be honest, he was quite satisfied with Bai Feifei as a student, and the title of top student was not undeserved. Even though she had graduated 2 years ago, the things she learned in school had not fallen behind at all. As for Sheng Fenghua, Professor Ouyang did not know what words to use to describe her. Her answer was not like Bai Feifei's, where she copied all the knowledge from books, but combined with reality. This was also the reason why everyone was shocked. Even if they were old, answering these questions might not be better than Shang Feng was. Therefore, he could only say that Shang Fenghua was a genius among geniuses. How is it, Professor Ouyang? Who was the first? The other professors couldn't help but ask when they saw that Professor Ouyang had been reading the two papers. Although in everyone's hearts, Shang Fenghua had long been ranked first. Other than the one that President Yang praised to the heavens, who else is it? Professor Ouyang's tone was a little sour, making everyone laugh. On the other hand, President Yang had a smile on his face the whole time. He thought of what Shang Fenghua had said before. No matter who loses face, you won't lose face. At that time, he didn't dare to believe her words, but the facts once again proved that Shang Fenghua really didn't make him lose face. I really didn't expect that the little girl's insight was so incisive. As expected, the younger generation surpasses the younger generation. The younger generation surpasses the younger generation. We are all old. Who says so? The little girl looks like she's only in her teens, but she actually has this kind of insight. In time, who knows how she'll develop? Exactly. The little girl isn't simple. It's a pity that President Yang beat me to it. Otherwise, I would have wanted to take in a disciple. An older professor said regretfully he was the former president of this medical school, Gu Changqing. It had been many years since he had taken in a disciple. Today, when he saw Shang Fenghua's answer sheet, he suddenly had the thought of taking in a disciple. However, because of President Yang's face, he had not mentioned it. Now, he could only use a joke to express his thoughts. President Yang knew that Professor Gu wanted to snatch him away, so he did not respond at all. Instead, he reminded everyone, it's getting late. They should be waiting anxiously. Shouldn't we go out and announce the results? Let's go. We have to announce it sooner or later. The earlier, the less they have to wait, said Professor Ouyang. He took the test paper and stood up. As soon as the door of the professor's office opened, Bai Fei and the students immediately stopped talking and looked at the professors. The test paper was still held by Professor Ouyang. There was a faint smile on his face, and he looked at Bai Fei with a gentle and satisfied gaze. Bai Fei saw the professor's good mood with just a glance, and her heart jumped up. She knew that she must have done well in the exam, or else the professor wouldn't be so happy. Thinking of this, Bai Fei could not help but look at Shang Fenghua. The pride in her eyes fell into Shang Fenghua's eyes. Shang Fenghua smiled at her, as if she did not care at all. However, Jun Yinshin looked at Shang Fenghua's nonchalant look and did not seem to want to go forward. He could not help but ask, "Aren't you going?" "No need." Shang Fenghua shook her head. She still had this bit of confidence. Even if Bai Fei did not do well in the exam, she would definitely do better than her. "Aren't you worried at all?" "There's nothing to worry about. Now that the results are out, what's yours is yours. It's useless if it's not yours," Shang Fenghua said with a smile. She was really not worried at all. Moreover, it was just as she had said. Now that the results were out, it was too late to worry. Jun Yinshin thought about it and agreed. He turned to look at Si Zhanbei. Seeing that he was also calm and did not seem worried at all, he could not help but ask, "Aren't you worried too? What are you worried about?" "I believe her." It was just a few words, but Jun Yinshin was shocked. Seeing that Si Zhanbei's gaze was getting deeper and deeper, he was not as good as him. Compared to Shang Fenghua's calmness, the students of the academy were nervous and excited. Their gazes fell on Professor Ouyang, waiting for him to report his results. Because as long as you pass the 80-point qualifying exam, you can get the qualification certificate. Although they have not yet graduated, it may be in advance to get a medical license. It is still very good. For this reason, it is understandable that people are nervous. As for Bai Fei, she was not so nervous. She also had confidence in herself, not to mention that she could see that her master was in a good mood. Obviously, she did well in the exam. Now, let's start reading the results. Professor Ouyang glanced at everyone. After taking in everyone's expressions, he began to read the results. He read from low to high. Some people failed, some passed, and occasionally, 1 or 2 people passed the 80 mark. Those who passed the 80 mark were so happy that they were dumbfounded when they heard their results. Although they really wanted to pass the exam, they were still a little surprised when they actually passed it. As the number of notes increased, there were only 2 or 3 papers left. The student's best score was 83 points. Professor Ouyang praised the students very much and took out one of the remaining 2 papers. It was Bai Feifei's paper. At this time, Bai Feifei couldn't help but feel nervous. Earlier, Professor Ouyang had read from low to high, but he didn't read Sheng Fenghua's name, which made her very uneasy. Although she had always thought that Sheng Fenghua couldn't do better than her, she was still worried when she didn't hear her score. This paper belongs to Bai Feifei. Professor Ouyang began to speak. He looked at everyone, and his gaze fell on Bai Feifei. But he did not immediately tell her the score. Instead, he praised, "It has been 2 years since Bai Feifei graduated, but she has not forgotten the knowledge she learned from studying, especially the content in the book. She still remembers it very clearly." After hearing Professor Ouyang's words, Bai Feifei's uneasy heart slowly calmed down. There was a faint smile in her eyes, and her heart became even more proud. She turned to look at Sheng Fenghua and thought to herself, "Sheng Fenghua, did you hear that I'm so outstanding? How can you beat me?" "Professor, we all know that senior sister is very outstanding. Please tell us how many points she got." "Yes, Professor Ouyang, tell us how many points senior sister got." "Yes, Professor Ouyang, we can't wait to see someone slap us in the face." "Exactly, Professor, don't waste time. Just tell us how many points senior sister and student Sheng got." "Professor, quick, quick, quick. Tell us if senior sister got first place this time." "That's right, Professor. Tell us quickly." "Of course. Senior sister must have gotten first place. Didn't you see how happy the professor was?" "I knew it. Senior sister is a top student in our school. She must have done better than someone else. This is great. Someone is just waiting to be slapped in the face." The discussion once again reached Sheng Fenghua's ears, but it still didn't break her calm. She still had a faint smile on her face. She looked at the professors without a trace of anxiety. Seeing her like this, President Yang and the professors were more satisfied with her. She was a calm child who would definitely be able to achieve great things in the future. As for Professor Ouyang, after hearing everyone's words, his face could not help but turn black. He no longer kept her in suspense and directly said, "Bai Feifei, 90 points." Hearing Bai Feifei's score, the students could not help but cheer. After the cheer, they remembered that they hadn't heard Sheng Fenghua's score, yet they couldn't help but ask, "Professor, where is student Sheng?" Professor Ouyang glanced at the student who asked the question, then unfolded Sheng Fenghua's paper and read, "Sheng Fenghua, full marks." When the word full marks came out, everyone was shocked. Staring blankly at Professor Ouyang and the paper in his hands, they didn't come back to their senses for a long time. Bai Feifei stood there in a daze, wondering if she had heard wrongly. Sheng Fenghua got full marks? How is this possible? She had only scored 90 points. How could Sheng Fenghua get full marks? Impossible. She didn't believe it. Bai Feifei thought so. Minga looked up at Professor Ouyang and asked, "Teacher, did you make a mistake?" As soon as she said this, the shocked students came back to their senses and looked at Professor Ouyang. They asked together, "That's right, Professor. Did you make a mistake? How could Sheng Fenghua get a full score? She handed in her paper so early. How could she have finished the questions?" "That's right, Professor. Could it be that she made a mistake or changed the paper?" "That's right, Professor. Could it be that senior sister got a perfect score and got it wrong?" "How is that possible? Didn't they say that she came from the countryside? How could a person who has never come into contact with medicine get a perfect score?" "Do you think so too?" Professor Ouyang ignored the others and asked Bai Feifei instead. "Professor, Bai Feifei opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. She was indeed as everyone thought. She felt that it was very likely that Professor Ouyang got the score wrong or read the wrong name. That was because Sheng Fenghua was really a girl from her hometown. How could she get full marks? "I understand." Professor Ouyang's voice turned cold. He glanced at Bai Feifei and then swept his gaze across the students. "What makes you think that Sheng Fenghua didn't do well? What makes you think that she can't beat Bai Feifei?" Yes, Bai Feifei is a top student in medical school. But you have forgotten that there are mountains beyond mountains and people beyond people. Why can't Xing Fenghua do better than Bai Feifei? After hearing Professor Ouyang's words and seeing Bai Feifei's pale face, the medical school students couldn't help but speak up for her. Professor, it's not that we don't trust student Shang, but she is too suspicious. That's right, Professor. I heard that student Shang has never been to school. How could she do so well? That's right. She's not a genius. She can't just learn without learning, right? That's right, Professor. We don't believe that she could do so well. Professor Ouyang looked at the students with disappointment. After a long while, he asked, "Then how do you believe her? Post her test paper for us to see." "Yes, post senior sister Bai and her test paper. Only then can we be convinced." "Okay." Professor Ouyang nodded and said, "I will post the test paper. But let me say this first. Sheng Fenghua's answer is combined with reality. Only those who have been doctors will understand the key." Bai Feifei's face turned pale again when she heard this. She suddenly remembered that she had been a doctor for 2 years, but when she answered the questions, she still followed the instructions in the book. No one said anything else. Professor Ouyang found 2 people to help him and posted the 2 test papers on the wall. Bai Feifei was the first to go up when the test papers were posted. She walked to Sheng Fenghua's test paper and looked at the neat and beautiful handwriting on it. Her face changed. How could a person who could write well be illiterate? It seemed that she had underestimated Sheng Fenghua in the past. Otherwise, she would not have lost so badly today. Looking at the answers on Sheng Fenghua's test paper again, Bai Feifei was so shocked that she could not speak. No wonder the professor said that Sheng Fenghua's answers were combined with reality. As a doctor, she already had some experience and could easily see why Sheng Fenghua's test paper was given full marks. However, understanding was one thing, and being willing was another. She did not forget her bet with Sheng Fenghua. She was not willing to lose to Sheng Fenghua just like that, and she was not willing to avoid her in the future. With such a mentality, Bai Feifei was unwilling to admit that Sheng Fenghua was better than her, so she turned to look at Professor Ouyang and said, "Professor Ouyang, this is not fair." Upon hearing this, Professor Ouyang became more and more disappointed with Bai Feifei and said, "Then what do you think is fair?" "Of course, it's a live competition to see the patient," Bai Feifei said without thinking. She had been a doctor for 2 years and had treated many patients, so she believed that she would surpass Sheng Fenghua in this aspect. The other professors also heard Bai Feifei's words. After pondering for a moment, they nodded in agreement. The professors felt that there was still some distance between theory and reality. Although they could see that Sheng Fenghua had some medical experience, they hadn't seen it with their own eyes after all. After a few professors and President Yang gathered to discuss it, they unanimously agreed to Bai Feifei's request. Therefore, President Yang walked up to Sheng Fenghua, who seemed to stay out of the matter, and said, "Sheng girl, student Bai doesn't seem to be convinced by you. I discussed it with a few professors and came to see a doctor on the spot. What do you think?" "No problem." Sheng Fenghua nodded. It wasn't that she was bragging, but she had never failed to see a doctor before. No matter if it was a difficult or serious disease, as long as it was a patient in her hands, they would all live well. "Okay, I'll get someone to arrange the queue now. We'll have a live competition later." Seeing that Sheng Fenghua had agreed, President Yang went back to the professors and talked to them. After that, he made a phone call. In a short while, a hospital car drove into the school and arrived at the teaching building. "Let's go. She's already here. Let's go down." Yang Yuanzi saw the car arrive and said to everyone before taking the lead to go downstairs. Si Zhanbei held Sheng Fenghua's hand and walked at the back. As they went downstairs, he said to her in a low voice, "Wife, don't be nervous. I'm here." "I know." Sheng Fenghua smiled and nodded. In fact, she was not nervous at all. In her previous life, she had already done too many things like seeing a doctor. However, she quite enjoyed Si Zhanbei's concern. Seeing that he was worried about her and listening to his words, Sheng Fenghua felt warm in her heart. The group of people quickly arrived downstairs. The patients had already gotten out of the car and were standing in a row waiting. In order to ensure fairness, the professor and President Yang looked at the patients separately and then wrote down the diagnosis. After they finished looking at the patients, they let Bai Feifei and Sheng Fenghua see the patients. WHO's first? Bai Feifei glanced at Sheng Fenghua and asked coldly. Although she believed that she would not lose to Sheng Fenghua, she was still a little nervous. After all, this Sheng Fenghua was too strange. She had a feeling that she could not figure it out. Whatever. Sheng Fenghua shrugged indifferently. She had just observed the patients and roughly knew what disease they had. She was only one step away from confirming it. Bai Feifei gave Sheng Fenghua a deep look and said, "Then I'll go first." "It doesn't matter." After Sheng Fenghua finished speaking, she saw President Yang glaring at her. To be honest, Sheng Fenghua's attitude made him a little dissatisfied. At this time, why did she still look like she didn't care? Sheng Fenghua acted as if she didn't see President Yang's glare. She walked to the side and waited for Bai Feifei to finish her consultation. When Bai Feifei finished her examination, the students of the academy held their breaths and waited quietly. They had also looked at Sheng Fenghua and Bai Feifei's examination papers and saw the difference between the two. However, even though they could see that Sheng Fenghua was better than Bai Feifei, they still hoped that Bai Feifei could win. After all, she was not only representing herself, but also the face of the academy. Who asked Bai Feifei to be a top student from the academy? Bai Feifei was still a little nervous when she saw the examination under everyone's eyes. In addition to her bet with Sheng Fenghua, she was so anxious that she became even more nervous. When she saw the first patient, her hands were shaking. However, her psychological quality was not bad. She quickly calmed down and began to ask the patient some questions. Then, she wrote down her diagnosis on the diagnosis report. Bai Feifei spent half an hour to write down the diagnosis for the 4 patients. After writing down the diagnosis, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then, she looked at Sheng Fenghua proudly and said, "It's your turn." Sheng Fenghua smiled and pulled her hand out of Si Zhanbei's big hand. Then, she walked in front of the 4 patients. She did not ask about the patient's condition at the beginning. Instead, she asked the patient to extend her hand. The patient did not ask any more questions. She directly stretched out her hand and saw Sheng Fenghua clasp the other person's wrist and take his pulse. After taking his pulse, she still did not ask anything and directly wrote on the diagnosis letter. When everyone saw this scene, they were stunned. She actually made a diagnosis just like that, without even asking. In contrast to the students' shock, President Yang and a few professors were even more shocked. They had never expected Sheng Fenghua to know Chinese medicine and even know how to take their pulse. One had to know that the previous exam papers were almost all about Western medicine. While everyone was shocked, Sheng Fenghua had already taken their pulse and finished writing the diagnosis. "It's done." Sheng Fenghua stood up and said, then handed her diagnosis to one of the professors. The professor took the diagnosis and put it together for President Yang and the other professors to judge. At this moment, everyone was nervous, especially Bai Feifei. The outcome of the match between her and Sheng Fenghua would depend on the result of the diagnosis. If she lost this time, she didn't know what to do. At this moment, even Si Zhanbei was looking forward to and nervous. He hoped that Sheng Fenghua would win, but he was also afraid that she would lose. There was also a complicated emotion that he couldn't explain. At this moment, only Sheng Fenghua remained calm, as if she didn't care about the outcome at all. She was still standing straight with a smile on her face. Soon, the professors came to a conclusion. They glanced at Sheng Fenghua and Bai Feifei and said, "Sheng Fenghua won the examination." Bai Feifei's face instantly turned pale. She turned to look at Sheng Fenghua in disbelief. She remembered that Sheng Fenghua didn't even ask about the patient. How could she win? This is impossible. Bai Feifei thought and couldn't help but say it out loud. "Bai Feifei, what do you mean?" "Win, prof." Wu Yang heard this, his face instantly darkened. Today was the second time that Bai Feifei had questioned them. "Professor, I didn't mean anything by it. It's just that Sheng Fenghua didn't even ask the patient just now. How did you determine that she won?" Seeing that her teacher had changed her face, Bai Fei was a little scared and nervous, but she still asked out the doubts in her heart. It seems that if I don't let you lose, you will never know how bad you are, Professor Ouyang said with great disappointment. Then he took out the diagnosis letter written by Bai Fei and read out her diagnosis. After reading it, he asked, Bai Fei, is this your diagnosis? Yes. Bai Fei nodded. Ouyang picked up Sheng Fenghua's diagnosis and read it again. After reading it, he looked at Sheng Fenghua and asked coldly, now you know how bad you are? Bai Fei's face turned pale. She bit her lip and didn't say anything else. Sheng Fenghua's diagnosis was obviously more comprehensive than hers. Professor Ouyang glanced at her and read the diagnoses of the other professors again, completely dispelling Bai Fei's hope. After listening to the 3 diagnoses, the faces of the students of the academy were all red with embarrassment, especially those who had doubted Sheng Fenghua before. They wished they could find a hole to hide in. After all, they had just seen Sheng Fenghua's diagnosis with their own eyes. They saw that she had written the diagnosis without even asking a word. Moreover, the content written was the same as the professor's diagnosis. How powerful was she to be able to do this? On the other hand, Bai Fei had asked the patient a lot of questions, but in the end, not only was she not as comprehensive as Sheng Fenghua, but she had also made a mistake in her judgment. Even so, Bai Fei was still unwilling to admit defeat. She raised her flushed face and said, Professor, why don't we ask the patient again to see whose diagnosis is correct? When Professor Ouyang heard this, he was so angry that his face became even more unsightly. He pointed at Bai Fei and opened his mouth, but because he was too angry, he couldn't even say a word. President Yang and the other professors glanced at Bai Fei and stretched out their hands to help Ouyang Suichi. They advised, Ouyang, don't be angry. Since student Bai said she wants to ask the patient, let the patient talk to her herself and see whose diagnosis is correct. That's right, Ouyang. It's such a big deal. If she wants to ask the patient, let her ask the patient directly. President Yang didn't say anything. He pointed at the patient and said, Comrade, please tell her what disease you have and whose diagnosis is correct. After hearing President Yang's words, the patient glanced at Bai Fei and said, Miss, not only do I have rheumatism, but I also have periarthritis of the shoulder. My leg has been injured before, and I have old injuries. As soon as she said this, Bai Fei's face turned even redder. She bit her lip desperately, looking as if she was about to cry. The gazes of everyone on Bai Fei gradually changed. In the past, they all admired her, but now they suddenly felt that she was not the goddess in their hearts. She could not afford to lose. The outcome had been clear for a long time, but she had always been suspicious. In the end, she still could not escape being slapped in the face. On the contrary, Sheng Fenghua had always been so indifferent and had the ability to make them feel good about her. Thus, a few people came to Sheng Fenghua. It seemed that Sheng Fenghua raised her eyebrows and asked with a smile, What's the matter? I'm sorry. A few of them apologized to Sheng Fenghua in embarrassment and said, We misunderstood you before. You're very good. After saying that, they even gave Sheng Fenghua a thumbs up with admiration in their eyes. Thank you. Sheng Fenghua smiled and thanked them. In fact, she didn't blame them, even though they had said some things to slander her. You're very good, and your husband is very handsome. A girl glanced at Si Zhanbei and ran away with a red face after saying that. Si Zhanbei was happy when he heard others praise Sheng Fenghua, but Mengda was immediately stunned when she heard someone praise him for being so handsome. Although he always knew that he was not bad-looking, he did not expect the other party to be so direct and praise him in front of him. However, this feeling was not bad, especially the words, your husband, which made him feel happy in his heart, because such a beautiful and outstanding Sheng Fenghua was his. He was very happy. Bai Fei was already a little angry because of the change in the way everyone looked at her. Now that she saw the people who originally worshipped her running to Sheng Fenghua to apologize, she became even angrier. She felt that the slap on her face was even more painful than before, so she glared at those people fiercely, covered her face, and turned around to run away. After Bai Feifei left, the students did not stay any longer. They said goodbye to the professors, glanced at Sheng Fenghua, and turned around to leave. As for the patients, President Yang also arranged for them to return to the hospital. Soon, only President Yang and a few professors were left downstairs, along with Sheng Fenghua and Si Zhanbei, as well as Jun Yinshin, who had always treated himself as an invisible person. For Jun Yinshin, today Sheng Fenghua had refreshed his understanding and broadened his horizons. He was more and more convinced of his old man. The old man's vision was really extraordinary. He had actually found Sheng Fenghua, a piece of unpolished jade, at a glance. President Yang, professors, if there's nothing else, we'll take our leave first. Sheng Fenghua walked up to the professors and President Yang and said with a smile, "Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Hearing that Sheng Fenghua was leaving, the professors were not happy. It was not easy to find a genius. Although they could not take her as a disciple, they could at least get to know her. Do the professors have anything else? Sheng Fenghua asked with a faint smile. She herself was not in a hurry. She was afraid that she would delay Si Zhanbei's time. After all, he had gone to work in the morning. Although he said that he had applied for leave, Sheng Fenghua still felt that if she could go back earlier, it would be better to go back earlier. After all, the exams had been completed and the matches had been held. She really had nothing to do if she stayed. Nothing. Can't we get to know each other? Professor Ouyang rolled his eyes at Sheng Fenghua. He admired her excellence, but because of her, he had lost Bai Feifei as a student. He felt a little uncomfortable, so he started talking. His tone was not very good. Fortunately, Sheng Fenghua did not mind. She still smiled and said, "Of course. My name is Sheng Fenghua. It's nice to meet you, professors." Seeing Sheng Fenghua's graceful manner, Professor Ouyang did not say anything more. He directly said, "Ouyang Hua. Girl, my name is Gu Changqing, Ming Ruofeng, Wang Qingyuan, Feng Ruiqing, Mei Changxian." The 6 professors reported their names. When Sheng Fenghua heard it, she immediately felt a sense of respect. They were all well-known figures in various fields of medicine. In her previous life, she had heard of their names and read their articles. However, she did not expect to see their real faces in this life. "Hello, Professor Ouyang, Professor Gu, Professor Ming, Professor Wang, Professor Feng, and Professor Mei." Sheng Fenghua greeted them respectfully. Feeling Sheng Fenghua's attitude toward them change, Professor Gu couldn't help but ask, "Why, do you know us?" "Of course, we are the top 6 of the 7 countries in China. Everyone has their own specialties and has made some achievements." Sheng Fenghua spoke with confidence. Starting from Professor Ouyang, she told them all about their achievements in their fields and published articles. After hearing this, the few of them looked at Sheng Fenghua in great shock. They never thought that she would know them so well. No wonder she was so outstanding. This was not without reason. President Yang looked at Sheng Fenghua, talking about the lives of the few professors as if they were family treasures. He could not help but tease her and said, "Sheng girl, my name is Yang Shihua. How much do you know about me?" Sheng Fenghua turned to look at President Yang and understood. No wonder there were only 6 of the 7 national players. So there was another one, President Yang. So, President Yang is the other national player. I apologize for my lack of respect. Sheng Fenghua cupped her hands at President Yang in imitation of the ancients. She said, "President Yang specializes in the department of cardiology. He has performed 81 heart transplants. The success rate is 98.6%. He has published 25 papers. They have been published in medical journals, Chinese medical journals, and other magazines." And, "Enough, girl. Stop talking. It seems that you know us very well. No wonder you have such achievements at such a young age. Not bad." President Yang interrupted Sheng Fenghua. He could already see her hard work. However, President Yang was still a little puzzled. If Sheng Fenghua really came from the countryside, how would she know about these things? It must be known that the articles they published, other than those who had reached a certain level in the industry, could be seen quite rarely, just like Bai Feifei from before. Although she was a top student in the hospital, she could rarely see their articles. Sheng Fenghua smiled and did not say anything. Instead, she looked at everyone and said, "Professors, now that we know each other, can I go back first?" Hearing that, the professors glared at Sheng Fenghua and said with a smile, "You little girl, why are you in such a hurry? Are you afraid that we will eat you?" The professors have misunderstood. "I'm afraid that my husband has waited for too long. I'm sure you also know that as a soldier, there are many things that cannot be helped." Hearing Sheng Fenghua's words, the professors didn't force her to stay. Instead, they said, "Since that's the case, you can go back first. When you have time, come and look for U.S. old men." "Okay, I'll definitely visit you when I have time." After bidding farewell to the professors, Shang Fenghua walked to President Yang and said, "President Yang, thank you. I'll go back first today. If you have any problems, you can call the army to look for me." After that, Shang Fenghua said goodbye to everyone and left with Si Zhanbei. Seeing the two of them leave hand in hand, Jun Yinshin's eyes darkened again. Then, he said goodbye to President Yang and left. Jun Yinshin deliberately quickened his pace. He originally wanted to send the two of them back. However, when he caught up with the two of them, he heard Si Zhanbei say, "Wife, where do you want to go for a walk? I drove here today." Hearing this, Jun Yinshin stopped in his tracks. It seemed that they did not need him anymore. He could not help but put on a self-deprecating smile on his face. He stood in place for a while until Sheng Fenghua and Si Zhanbei had gone far away. Only then did he start walking again. "You drove a military jeep out?" When Sheng Fenghua saw the military jeep parked at the school gate, she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. A jeep. In her previous life, she had been madly infatuated with it for a period of time. Later, she got a jeep and drove it for half a year before she stopped driving it due to a mission. When she remembered, the jeep had already been borrowed by Feng Qing, and she had never returned it ever since. Now that she thought about it, she was really stupid at that time. Feng Qing had already made it very obvious, but she hadn't realized it yet, and even treated her as a good friend. That good friend would not like to see her good and would not like to see her have good things. Every time, as long as she liked something, Feng Qing would think of a way to snatch it away. At that time, she did not think too much about it. Moreover, she felt that since they were good friends, they should share good things. However, she forgot that a person's heart was not enough, and a snake would swallow an elephant. When the other party's demand had become a habit, if there was a time when she was not allowed to take anything, the other party would hate her and betray and harm her. Thinking about the matters of her past life, Sheng Fenghua's mood could not help but drop. Si Zhanbei was a sensitive person. The first thing he felt was that something was wrong with Sheng Fenghua. He asked with concern, "Wife, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" "Nothing." Sheng Fenghua came back to her senses. Seeing the worried look on Si Zhanbei's face, she smiled and shook her head. She was not strong enough now. It was no different to think too much about what happened in her previous life. Therefore, she had to work hard and make herself strong as soon as possible. Only then could she take revenge and kill the people who had harmed her in her previous life. Si Zhanbei's eyes flashed. He had long discovered that his little wife had secrets. Sometimes, he even had the illusion that she was very far away from him. Just like before, when he was at the teaching building, he looked at her as if she was a family treasure. He told her about the lives of several professors and President Yang. Looking at her confident appearance, Si Zhanbei suddenly felt that he did not understand his little wife at all. She was clearly a farm girl, but why did her temperament and grace not look like it at all? Thinking of the little wife he met for the first time, and then looking at the people around him, if they didn't look exactly the same, he would even suspect that they had switched places and changed to another person. When did this change start? Si Zhanbei thought, and for a moment, he was absent-minded and even forgot to drive the car, until Sheng Fenghua gently patted him and said, "Are you tired? Do you want me to drive? You know how to drive?" Si Zhanbei came back to his senses and looked at Sheng Fenghua in shock. The current Sheng Fenghua was not only good at medicine, but she also knew how to drive a car. This was too strange. As her husband, he knew more than by Fei Fei and the others. Sheng Fenghua was indeed the daughter-in-law he married from the countryside. She really could not read a word. If he could turn a blind eye before, he liked the change in Shang Fenghua because this change made her more and more like the shadow in his dream. Si Jianbei felt that he needed to have a talk with Shang Fenghua to see what had happened to her before and why she had changed into a different person. However, now is not a good time to talk. I will. Shang Fenghua smiled and nodded. Si Jianbei would have to accept her change sooner or later. If he could not accept it, she would consider leaving. After all, when two people were together, they had to trust each other in order to last long and go far. If they were suspicious of each other, it was easy to create conflicts, and this was not what she wanted to see. Then you try. After Si Jianbei said that, he and Shang Fenghua swapped seats. After swapping seats, Shang Fenghua skillfully started the car and drove towards the city. Si Jianbei sat in the passenger seat and looked at Shang Fenghua's actions with a hint of deep thought in his eyes. Where are we going? After driving for a while, Shang Fenghua turned around and asked Si Jianbei. She was not familiar with this city and needed Si Jianbei to lead the way for her. How about I take you to see my comrade in arms? Si Jianbei tried to suggest. Sure. Shang Fenghua agreed immediately. She didn't have much to do anyway, and she didn't like shopping. Since Si Jianbei wanted to see his comrade, there was no harm in accompanying him. Turn left at the intersection in front. Si Jianbei reported the route. Shang Fenghua drove skillfully and soon arrived at Si Jianbei's comrade's house. Shang Fenghua drove to the other party's building and stopped. She looked at Si Jianbei and said, "Did you buy anything?" "No." Si Jianbei shook his head. He never needed to buy anything when he came here. Shang Fenghua was a little speechless. She pointed to the supermarket not far from here and said, "Then I'll go buy something." Unexpectedly, Si Jianbei pulled him back and said, "He only lives alone, so he doesn't need to buy anything. Moreover, this is the first time he's seen you. It's a good thing that I don't ask him for a gift." "You." Shang Fenghua looked at Si Jianbei speechlessly, but he directly pulled her upstairs. They didn't meet anyone on the way. Si Jianbei stopped on the third floor and stretched out his hand to knock on the door. However, after knocking for a while, no one came to open the door. He could not help but frown and turn to look at Shang Fenghua. Just as he was about to apologize to her, he saw the sudden change in Shang Fenghua's expression. Oh no, something might have happened to the person inside. Shang Fenghua looked at Si Jianbei with a serious face. She had smelled a hint of blood just now. What's wrong? Si Jianbei's expression changed slightly. He looked at Shang Fenghua and asked, "Did you find something? I smell blood." Shang Fenghua walked to the door and said anxiously, "Quick, think of a way to open the door." Si Jianbei glanced at Shang Fenghua, then took out an iron wire from somewhere on his body and started fiddling with the door lock. Once the lock was opened, Shang Fenghua rushed in. Unexpectedly, there was a gunshot and a bullet came straight for her. Danger came. Without thinking, Shang Fenghua rolled on the ground and avoided the bullet. At the same time, she shouted to Si Jianbei, "Jianbei, be careful." Si Jianbei had heard the gunshot long ago, so he immediately avoided it. However, he was very worried about Shang Fenghua. Therefore, after avoiding it, he immediately rolled into the room. At this time, Shang Fenghua was already fighting with someone in the room. The person who was fighting with Shang Fenghua was a man in black. Originally, he heard the knock on the door and wanted to fight, so after killing the person in the room, he was ready to leave. Unexpectedly, at this time, Shang Fenghua barged in, and he had no choice but to shoot. However, what the man in black did not expect was that Shang Fenghua not only avoided his bullets, but was also a martial artist. Although his strength was somewhat lacking, his every move was ruthless. Every time he was forced to dodge, he could only awkwardly dodge. He couldn't use his gun in a close-range attack. This made him a little angry. After forcing Shang Fenghua back with one move, he wanted to leave through the window. At this time, Si Jianbei entered. He quickly rushed to the front of the man in black. Before he climbed up the window, he stretched out his hand and directly pulled him down. He hurt his comrade and still wanted to escape? No way.